Tony Judt, one of the most profound historians of our age, once remarked that Europe is both the cradle of human rights and the birthplace of totalitarianism. It is a sentence that breathes with the weight of centuries. It is a paradox that defines the soil of a continent that has seen everything: the birth of the Renaissance, the industrial engine of the world, but also the dark, suffocating grip of the Inquisition, the Napoleonic hunger for empire, and the mechanized slaughter of the 20th century. For decades, we were told a specific story about the new Europe. It was the ultimate Silk Project, a post-national dream, an experiment where borders dissolved, where human rights were the only currency, and where the economic interdependence of a common market would make the very idea of war an ancient absurdity. We were told that the cradle had finally won, and the birthplace of totalitarianism had been buried under the glass towers of Brussels. But as the twilight of the liberal international order deepens, a different shadow is stretching across the continent. Too many watching from the global south, from the streets of Colombo to the markets of Nairobi. The mask is slipping. The European Union is starting to look less like a federation of free states and more like something we thought was dead: the Warsaw Pact. But this isn't your grandfather's Warsaw Pact. This is the Warsaw Pact on steroids. The original pact was built on tanks and crude treaties, enforced by the heavy hand of the Kremlin. Today's version is far more sophisticated. It enforces ideological conformity not through the threat of a T-70 to tank, but through the surgical precision of swift bans, the silent weaponization of visa denials, and the bureaucratic strangulation of market access. It is centralized, it is punitive, and most dangerously, it is morally selective. The evidence isn't just a whisper in the dark. It is a roar that is accelerating. We are witnessing the transformation of an economic union into a geopolitical war council, a body that no longer serves its citizens' prosperity, but dictates a single, rigid doctrine that brooks no deviation. Democracy, in its purest form, is meant to be a conversation. It is meant to be the silk that binds the will of the people to the actions of the state. But in the heart of Europe today, democracy has become a choreographed performance, a piece of theater, where the actors are the elites, and the audience is increasingly ignored. Consider France, the very heart of the European project. In 2024, the people spoke. They rooted President Emmanuel Macron's party, not once, but twice. They gave a clear mandate for change. And what was the response from the cradle of democracy? Was it a humble pivot? Was it a respectful transition of power? No. It was a masterclass in political shape-shifting. Macron, facing a rout, simply moved the goalposts. He appointed prime ministers like chess pieces in a game only he was playing. When they fell to no confidence motions, he simply picked them back up and put them back on the board. He turned the obvious will of the French people into a fait accompli of elite survival. If this is democracy, then the word has lost its meaning. If the leader can ignore the ballot box and hold onto the levers of power through institutional gymnastics, then we aren't talking about a republic anymore. We are talking about a managed consensus. And France is just the opening act. From the recall of elections in Romania to the silencing of journalists in the Baltics, The new Warsaw Pact is tightening its grip. The question we must ask is, why? Why is a union built on freedom suddenly so terrified of dissent? Why is the cradle becoming a cage? In the next segment, we look at how this democratic theatre isn't just a French phenomenon, but a systemic rot reaching into the very soul of European governance. We go inside the transition from an economic union to a geopolitical war council. What we are building here is not just a YouTube channel. It is a cognitive revolution. For too long, the narrative of our world has been a monologue delivered from the high balconies of the global North. But the world is a symphony, and we are here to amplify the voices that have been relegated to the background. What we bring is the silk of lived experience and the steel of survival, a perspective that understands that democracy isn't a gift given by empires, but a right fought for in the dust of the streets. To watch these videos is to step out of the echo chamber. Every like you give is a vote against the managed consensus. Every subscribe is a commitment to a broader horizon. Hit the notification bell, join the community at donicadequella.com, and claim your seat at the table of the second chapter. Because the story of the 21st century is being written right now, and it is being written with a global South flavor.